Hey there, guys. What lovely music. It's one of my favourite hymn tunes of all time, and a great image that I put with it as well. Get to that a little bit more in a moment. But hey, I hope you're surviving all this frosty weather, or the blazing hot weather if you're down under in Australia or New Zealand or wherever. Um, and well, as for California, dear God, our hearts go out to the people of Los Angeles where those fires are burning so devastatingly, and well, it's unspeakable, isn't it? Now, in the last two sheds, we have focused on the figure of Mary of Nazareth, the mother of Jesus, and I'm probably going to pursue that theme some more in future sheds, but broadening it out really to femininity in a wider sense. It always interests me that Christianity in East and West, the Orthodox and Catholic churches in particular, seem to have fallen head over heels in love with this basically ordinary woman, exalting her to, nearly deified status. I think it's because somehow Mary was needed to symbolize much more than the physical biological woman of Nazareth. I suspect it's something about the need of femininity, divine femininity. But anyway, more of that on another occasion, because today, before we forget all about the Epiphany story of the Magi and all that, I want to zero in on the whole business of Epiphany and Epiphanies, and how that speaks to the title that I gave today. You, speaking to God, you are what happens when we're looking the other way. I think what lots of people don't understand or realize is that Epiphany is much more than the feast day on January the 6th. It's a whole season in the terms of church liturgy. You could call the whole thing Epiphany Tide, which begins on the 6th of January but goes on until Candlemas on the 2nd of February. In point of fact, Epiphany is really part of the bigger cycle of Christmas, and Christmas properly ends at Candlemas, which is why some churches leave their nativity crib up, but replacing the shepherds with the Magi right through until February the 2nd, Candlemas. And I, for one, think that it's a pretty good idea to keep up some of the Christmas decorations. I don't know why we feel we have to tear them all down on, January the 6th. Certainly, I think fairy lights. I mean, throughout January, goodness knows, we need a bit of cheer, don't we? A bit of light in these cold, dark days. Now, I love the story of the Magi, not least because it's a wonderfully interfaith story. The word Magi, which is how they're described in the Greek New Testament text, Magi means sorcerer or of a priestly caste. They were probably Persian Zoroastrians, pagans from a Jewish perspective at the time. So it's interesting to me that right here in the New Testament, in Matthew's Gospel, we have an account of the nativity of Jesus, a Jewish child, right, in a Jewish family, celebrated by pagan Zoroastrian Magi, recorded in the Christian sacred text, recorded as if it were just a perfectly normal event. It always puzzles me how conservative Christians just seem to be able to pass over passages like this without batting an eyelid when it's a story that challenges an awful lot of basic assumptions in conservative Christianity. I mean, whether or not the story is rooted in historical fact, I don't know. I doubt it, but it's of no consequence really, because it is the story that matters. Also, what matters is the fact that it is included in the New Testament and in the narrative of Christ's birth. Much more important than factuality, I reckon, is what it points toward in a symbolic way. Because there's no suggestion at all in the Gospel account that the Magi did or should have converted to Judaism, much less Christianity. It is what it is. People of different faith traditions brought together by this event of the birth of a child, signifying fresh hope in the world for all people. This is how the story is commonly portrayed to us, right? The Magi and the Holy Family gathered round the child, a scene that we're all familiar with. But the text actually never tells us that there were 3 visitors, only that they brought 3 gifts. There was probably a whole retinue, a whole gathering of people. That's how it would have been in those days. And it doesn't say that they were kings, by the way, or even especially wise. These are things that, have been added in. Or, does it tell us that they were men? These are all assumptions. The story, of course, has always been interpreted in the context of the present day by the creative imagination. So why not reimagine it for us today, I think? And given the overwhelming patriarchy of New Testament times, why not envisage that wise women would also have come? Jan Richardson, who's a poet, an illustrator and a retreat leader, she's done just this. She's imagined 3 wise women bringing their gifts. And she's given us this lovely illustration along with this poem. Wise women also came. The fire burned in their wombs long before they saw the flaming star up in the sky. They walked in shadows, trusting the path would open under the light of the moon. Wise women also came, seeking no directions, no permission from any king. They came by their own authority, their own desire, their own longing. They came in quiet, spreading no rumours, sparking no fears to lead to innocent slaughter, to their sister Rachel's inconsolable lamentations. Wise women also came, and they brought useful gifts: water for labour's washing, fire for warm illumination, a blanket for swaddling. Wise women also came, at least 3 of them, holding Mary in the labour, crying out with her in the birth pangs, breathing ancient blessings into her ear. Wise women also came, and they went, as wise women always do. They went home a different way. It's great. Now, the image that we saw earlier is by the artist Janet Mackenzie, and she pictures 3 women of different ethnicities. I love all of Janet Mackenzie's art. I think she's absolutely terrific. And she says this, she says, wise women throughout time and in every culture know themselves to be seekers and seers of the divine. And in her interpretation, women around the world find an image of the Epiphany that includes and validates their encounters with the one who came, celebrated here in the powerful, protective and tender manifestation of a mother and her child, embraced and nurtured by a loving community. Here is global inclusiveness and a vision of mutuality and interdependence, the giving and receiving of the 3 gifts essential to life itself: presence, love and daily bread. Epiphany proclaims again and anew Christ for all people. God's favour extends to all. They're just very, very beautiful images. Now, there's an old joke which says that 3 wise women would have asked for directions, would have arrived on time, would have helped deliver the baby, cleaned the stable, made a casserole, and offered much more practical gifts. But look, if Epiphany is about much more than the story of the Magi, we have to see that it is about this whole season. And during that season, the lectionary readings focus on various stories in the Gospels about how different people in different ways came to recognize the light of God in Jesus. But actually, I see it as even more than that. I think that the season of Epiphany reminds us that life itself is an epiphany, that Christ is all in all, and that we can bump into God just about anywhere, anytime. The whole earth is full of God's glory. And, for me, nature evokes some of my most frequent and most treasured epiphanies. And the much-loved poet Mary Oliver, I think, could be described as an epiphany poet because, her poems, which are all deeply embedded in, her observations and her connection with nature, they're kind of records of her epiphanies in nature. And this is one that I'd like to read to you. It's called "I Happen to Be Standing," which actually in itself is quite an epiphanous statement, really, because this is so often how epiphanies come about. We just happen to be standing, and boom, there it is. We'd never noticed it. So she writes, "I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the opossum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflower, the old black oak, growing older every year. I know I can walk through the world, along the shore or under the trees, with my mind filled with things of little importance, in full self-attendance, a condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition? Or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze. Maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep. Maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. And then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why, and yet why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wren singing. What could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air. You've got to love a wren, haven't you? Fantastic. Sometimes here in London, when I'm walking around or going across the road to the shop, and I'm surrounded by, the sound of traffic, well, all the sounds of the city and stuff. And sometimes above all of that, above a bus going by and everything, I can hear this wren's song just striking through. And it'd be so easy to just not hear that unless you've begun to tune your ear, as I have, to listen to bird song. And look at this guy here. Do you know, bird watchers have this expression, LBJs. They talk about LBJs, little brown jobbies, referring to sparrows, dunnocks and the like. They're just LBJs. Not too interesting. Well, actually, I think sparrows and dunnocks and the likes of them, are pretty damn beautiful once you take the time to just look at them and have a think about it. But this isn't an LBJ. It's a rock pipit. Me and Pat were strolling along the seafront at Lyme Regis on a chilly, breezy day with damp, dank stuff in the air. I mean, frankly, I was just gazing toward the fish and chip kiosk at the end of the Esplanade. But Pat said, "Oh, look at that, Dave." And there it was. It was perched at the edge of a table. The coffee kiosk had closed and there was just the bare tables. And there it was, perched on the end. I mean, umpteen other people had passed it by, but Pat noticed. And oh my goodness, how that little bird warmed our day. Just sat there and posed too while I took the picture. But I tell you, a greater epiphany came to me with this painting, which is by our mate Rob Pepper. And he did this in Texas when he was doing a sort of tour and a presentation of some of his paintings there. And he called it When the Cow Saw Me. Now that's a revelation, when the cow saw me. Realizing that another creature who we think of as just being there almost ornamentally is looking at us. It changes the whole dynamic from a relationship of I and it to one of I and thou, to companionship. Sometimes when I am looking for inspiration to do with something I'm writing or really needing to think something through, I find that it's best for me to get out of my office or out of the shed or out of the house into nature. And many's the time I have sat out in the garden in freezing weather, Pat or other people bringing me a hot cup of tea now and again, big scarf round my neck, collar pulled up, or I've gone for a walk. And it's while I'm out there in nature that suddenly, pow, it hits me. There's something to me about feeling a breeze on your face or smelling the grass and the vegetation or hearing the birds singing that just stirs the creative juices. That's what I find anyway. And one day I was in a state of desperation. It happens quite a bit really, looking for an idea for a pause for thought for Radio 2. And I was smack up against the deadline, which is somehow how I need to be to write. Needed to get something off in the next hour or so. And so I thought, it's no good sitting here getting all in a stew. I'm gonna get out of this state of mind and just and get outside. So instead of panicking, I went for a walk, during which I passed a field with 2 or 3 horses in it, and I noticed a handsome white horse on the opposite side of the field, 40 or 50 meters away, I guessed. But that was it. I just sort of noticed it there and got on with my business. And then, to my complete surprise, all of a sudden, this chappie here was standing right next to me. And he put his head over the fence. He might have been looking for something to eat from me. But to me, it was just amazing. He'd come all that way because he'd seen me. And there he was now, looking at me. Now, I'm not especially horsey. I'm a Scouser. I didn't grow up with horses, but we stood there, me and this white horse, checking each other out. And we chatted a bit, about the weather. And then I got onto football, asked if he thought this could be Liverpool's year. He did one of those shake his head, sort of things, a bit like that. But hey, what does he know? He's a horse. Anyway, turns out he was to be the star of my pause for thought. I talked about the day the horse saw me. If only we could all grasp this, if we could just discover ourselves as part of nature instead of apart from it, being right in it and of it, rather than sort of somehow stepping back and observing it. Science has benefited massively from our ability to be objective, to stand back, to look, to analyse, to sort of think through and research. And that's all good. But the downside of it is that it sort of places us outside as observers and eventually exploiters. And I'm not sure that we're going to solve our problems, the climate emergency and so on, without finding a change of relationship, a switch from I, it, to I, thou. We have to stop seeing the world as a resource for our needs and wants and see that nature isn't something over there, it's us. That we do to nature, what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. There's a shift of consciousness that needs to go alongside of all the massive political policy making and everything else that needs to go on. Or I can't see that we're going to get there. But anyway, most of all, I guess, for all of us, the most treasured epiphanies are found in people. The philosopher Emmanuel Levinas said that an epiphany is when a manifestation of the divine is seen in another person's face. When we glimpse God in the other, a friend, a loved one, or a stranger. I know that some cases it's not as easy as others, but I certainly know what it's like to sit on a tube train and just suddenly find that whether it's an individual person or whether it's the whole carriage of people around me, there's somehow this mystical sense that God is filling this place. And despite all the imperfections and the problems, it's what Leonard Cohen said, there's a crack in everything, but that's how the light gets in. And it's through our imperfections, our flaws, and our foibles that the light can shine through. So yeah, I think that what this is all about is that the season of Epiphany, yes, takes us back to the stories about Jesus and so on. That's important, but it also seems to me to be an opportunity at this rather drab time of year to just know that the whole world is still full of God's glory. And the season of Epiphany is like a great big, sort of dig in the backside to say, get up here, have a look around, pause, take note, and know that, God is always hiding in full view. I could rattle on about this forever, but I need to close. But whatever you do during this Epiphany time, at least, keep an eye out for those revelations of divinity in the ordinary stuff and the ordinary people of life. God is what happens when we're looking the other way, thinking about something else, doing something else, being preoccupied, worrying, being anxious, needing to take a few more tablets to calm us down or whatever. God is there, and all the healing and nurturing that we need in life is all around us. And as I say, for me, I particularly find it in nature, but I also find it in friends and people as well. So here's a prayer that sums this up. It's called Life is an Epiphany. God of gleaming bolts out of the blue, grand epiphanies that transform the landscape of imagination. God of modest light bulb moments, flashes of inspiration that bring timely vision or direction. God of slow burning candles, unpretentious illuminations, faithfully holding out the way. God of deep and dazzling darkness, radiant presence in gloomy nights of the soul where all is clear but none can see. Help us to comprehend that life is full of epiphanies, moments of grace, however dramatic or mundane, that nothing is just ordinary, but bursting with new insights, new possibilities, hidden in full view. Christ is all and in all. Amen. Okay, well, if you've got a drink, we should toast this, shouldn't we? I've got a cup of tea here. I don't know what you've got, but I invite you to take a hold of it now, and I propose a toast to this wonderful world. Even on dull days, it's still crammed full of God's presence, of God's glory. A toast to huge epiphanies and ordinary little everyday epiphanies. A toast to eyes wide open as we walk through these daily lives of ours. To life, l'chaim. So, thank you very much for being here with me. If you like what I'm doing in the Holy Shed, you can support us. You can buy us a coffee or two. Just have to follow the link on the screen. It's very easy, and we are so grateful to all those of you who do support us in this way and in other ways too. So that's it. I hope that you have a great week. As I often say, be kind to those around you, bearing in mind that you never know where God or in whom God is hidden in full view. And that includes you, so be kind to yourself. I'm going to finish with another version of We Three Kings, but it's performed by the Medieval Babes. I don't know if you know the Medieval Babes. I love their music. They sung in all kinds of venues, including churches and cathedrals, and they rehearsed in our church in Islington once, and I've got a lot of affection for them. And what I like about this video is that despite the fact that the song, the words, the traditional lyrics that are clearly, definitely male, the fact that it's sung by these six lovely women, and there's such a kind of feminine, kind of mystical feel about it. Well, that's me. I hope you enjoy it too. Stay human. I'll see you soon.
We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we travel afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold I bring to crown him again, king forever, ceasing never over us all to reign. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Frankincense to offer high, incense on the deity night, prayer and praising, all men raising, worshiping God most high. Myrrh is mine, its bitter perfume, breeze of light,